guess. Sometimes I think, what am I going to do with all this stuff when I leave South Korea? But then I think, I'm never leaving South Korea. I had a friend message me today who's been wanting to buy a house all year. But he can't buy a house where he works because it's too expensive. So he could buy a house like 2 hours away from where he works. And I'm like, man, you really want to commute 2 hours every day? He's like, no, but I'm sick of paying landlord stuff. I want to buy a house. I'm like, but why? And then somehow it devolves into me talking about I don't do any of that stuff because I just feel like there's climate disaster and I'll be fist fighting people for water in a few years. And I just don't see the point of it.
Yeah.
And then I realized reading back my messages, like, God, what the fuck's wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy?
I mean, I don't disagree with your point. I guess that's why we do a podcast called Heat Death of the Universe.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
Okay. Welcome back to the Rojogan Experience presents Heat Death of the Universe podcast and affiliated products.
Today we're going to talk about how I overcame my addiction to nihilism.
Yes. Among other things. Yeah, that'll be part of it.
It's always part of it.
Do you want to expand on that?
I don't know. I figure if you've had an addiction to nihilism, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay. Nihilism addicts. Get out your ivermectin topical cream.
They make a cream?
Yeah, there's a topical cream for horses.
Oh, right.
And I think there's a pill. I think I got angry at somebody on Twitter who was pushing ivermectin shit, and I told them to eat a tube of the cream. Just fucking funnel it down their throat. See how far that gets them in life. Yeah, today's podcast sponsored by ivermectin, deworming horses since 1835. No, we're talking about a documentary, but also, I don't know, a subject more broadly. The documentary is new. It's on Netflix, like so many documentaries are. It's called Pray Away, and it's basically about the gay conversion therapy movement in the United States, and it focuses on 5 people that were previously heavily involved in pushing that movement, and like either, you know, being like counselors or kind of the public face of the movement, or well, one of the guys was like the founder of the thing, I think. And also, this is going to be confusing because I didn't really write down anybody's names, but we'll make it as clear as possible without that. But yeah, so it's focused on a particular group called Exodus International.
The founder, if you're talking about one of the founders of Exodus, was Randy Thomas. He's also the first one who I think left all the programs and kind of discuss. And the documentary really falls around John Polk, who ends up being like the face.
Yeah, he was the guy going on like Jerry Springer and shit.
Right.
Yeah. So there's him. There's, I believe, the oldest guy in the documentary is the original founder, because he talks about like his experience as like a little kid being gay and like hating the fact that he was gay. And he said he like looked around at his church one day and was like, oh, they've got like separate meetings for people with drug addiction and meetings for people going through divorces. Why isn't there a meeting for people like me who hate being gay and want to not be gay anymore?
And people going through nihilism.
Yes, the forgotten people, your people.
Nothing.
The nihilist
nothing for
addicts.
gay people, but those people who just want to see everything burn. There's even a place for us in God's heavenly kingdom.
Yes. The twisted Joker subdivision of heaven.
I mean, if God didn't have people like us, how would he have the inspiration for hell? It would be hard for an all-forgiving, all-good God to create a place of eternal suffering without people who are addicted to that and need that to be happy, right? So yeah, this follows like a group of people who founded the, I guess, first big, like, gay conversion Christian organization, Exodus.
Yes, and they were all, and you can tell pretty quickly in the documentary that they're all, the term they use is ex-gay. It's a little bit of a clumsy term, but you know, whatever, it gets the point across. And they're all pretty repentant, and I mean, they show a lot
I feel
of
bad for them.
They show a lot of remorse for, you know, how misguided they were and how they negatively, you know, impacted a lot of people's lives. Like towards the end of the documentary, one of the guys who I think was, he wasn't one of the high-ranking people. I think he was some sort of counselor, though. He said, you know, after he left and he was just living like a normal life as like an out gay guy, that one of his friends just asked him, like, how do you feel about all the people's blood on your hands? And he's just like,
I'm afraid to look at it.
Yeah, I was like afraid to even really fully confront like the results of like his actions, basically. I mean, what he did for this organization.
It's really tough, you know. You've convinced yourself that what you're doing is good.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, you know, watching this as someone who like is obviously not, I don't think there's any problem in any way with whatever form of sexuality, but like it's almost hard, you have to sort of force yourself to remember that, and it doesn't excuse anything, but these people that are doing this shit really think they're like saving souls and lives, and then I mean, to me, that just forces me to sort of dig deeper into like, well, what is the root cause of this problem? And I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on here, but I don't know. What did you think about the documentary in general? Just like how it was made and stuff.
I thought it was okay. It was like, I don't know. It just
kind of typical documentary.
It was like a typical documentary. I was going to say kind of like true crime documentary. It was not following a crime per se. But it's not like groundbreaking. I wasn't like amazed by it, but I thought it was interesting, the topic, interesting this stuff. I also grew up in a at least very conservative Christian area, so it like reminded me of some of that stuff that I just grew up around.
Yeah. Did you actually like hear about or like
I've never known anyone to be like in gay conversion therapy.
Okay,
That's
so
what
like,
you're asking.
that wasn't something talked about.
I mean, I've known a lot of my friends are gay and they've talked about stuff like that to me and like their own struggles with like coming out to their family, etc. But none of them were like subjected to this per se.
I guess I meant like, you know,
as far as I know,
you're like, you know, forced to go to church all the time, right? As a kid.
Just when I went to my dad's on every other weekend.
Okay.
Because I was in a divorced family.
So you got half as much church in as I did.
I got baptized because I was promised that I would get a trip to Six Flags from my dad.
Did he follow through?
He did.
Okay, that's good at least.
All I had to do was say that I would get baptized at his church because he wanted his kids to get baptized. I didn't want to.
Quick aside on the idea of parents literally bribing kids into doing religious shit. My mother paid me cash to read the Left Behind book. You remember?
Did you have to write a report for her or something?
No, I think she has.
How did you prove it?
I think she did ask me questions about the plot and stuff, and I did actually read the first one.
Were you worried about being left behind?
No, I was pretty firmly against Christianity at that point, but like I think I then went on to lie about reading the next two books in the series for more money.
Oh, that's mean of you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't con your parents.
Well, maybe they shouldn't try to bribe me into a belief system I find repellent. Anyway, I would say also though that as much as like it was like left unsaid, but like it was just very implied that like like homosexuality is sinful. And because like my parents, they were all about that focus on the family, whatever his name is, something Dobson. It's like a huge like Christian ministry thing in this U.S. Like on the level
church
of
people.
Yeah, it's like on the level of like the Jerry Falwell stuff, and I just remember seeing those like Focus on the Family magazines in the house all the time, listening to that shit on the radio.
He was also really connected with Billy Graham, right?
Yeah, that was like part of how my dad became a like professional Christian. Was seeing a Billy Graham revival thing like in like a baseball stadium, and it was like life changing for him.
He was the rock star of ministers, man.
Yeah,
Billy Graham was like the Elvis Presley of the Christian church.
And I forgot where I was before the aside. Just basically like growing up in a fairly conservative evangelical household. I don't know. I guess I almost consider myself sort of lucky that my parents weren't like fixated and obsessed on like gay, they weren't like Westboro Baptist type people. I'll just put it that way. But they like to sort of distinguish themselves as like, well, we're not those crazy Christians. We're normal Christians. Yes, of course, still gay people are going to burn in hell forever, but it just reminds me of the old line. Like there's this kind of like halfway point that I think a lot of Christians want to have, like as it's become more socially acceptable to be gay in the United States. I'm sure you've heard this term: hate the sin, not the sinner. That's like what
Yes,
always
I
gets,
have heard it.
that always gets brought up when you bring up like the ramifications of believing that being gay is evil. It's like, oh, well, we don't hate gay people. We just hate the fact that they're gay. It's like, you see how there's a very fine line between those two things, don't you?
A little bit.
Yeah, and it's like, it's the same thing with like, I mean, the Catholic Church's stance right now is, and it probably has been for a little while at least, I don't know exactly, but you can be gay and be a priest and like be a Catholic as long as you're non-practicing. They have some other like sort of academic word for it, but it basically means like you have to be celibate.
I got real annoyed with my family one of the last times I was in the States because my step-sister-in-law, who I like quite a bit, she's trans, and she transitioned from male to female. But she had showed up to my dad's house with my stepsister, but they made her like sit outside in the car. So I went out and talked to her because it was just fucking ridiculous. She's still like family. She's cool. And
Yeah,
it's just like really annoying to me that if I wanted to talk to her, I had to go outside. But my dad's like crazy conservative preacher was at the house that day, which is part of why they wouldn't let her in. I was like, what? You don't want to talk to her either? I just think, fucked. Come on, guys.
Yeah,
she's a good person.
That's fucking awful. I guess on the subject of being transgender, like that's what the documentary opens with, is this guy who's like standing outside of like just a depressing tiny like strip mall.
Yeah.
With a
looks like it was my
with this
hometown, actually. There's so many of those strip malls in my hometown. I guess everywhere in America.
I don't remember where it was. I mean,
I think that was Georgia. I remember it being Georgia. It wasn't
Okay.
my hometown, but it was Georgia.
No, I'm just saying, like,
Georgia.
I mean, one of the reviews of this movie I read is written by this guy who claims to be reformed from being gay, and he's like a guy living in like Hollywood, like he used to work in the movies and stuff, and he just like really hated this documentary. I just remember a part where he describes this guy in the beginning. Here we go. The film opens on Jeffrey McCall, a former transsexual who had a powerful encounter with God and is now transformed by the gospel. The camera follows him on the streets of Georgia, offering prayer to strangers. It's clear the director capitalized on McCall's lilting and effeminate Southern accent in an attempt to discredit him. I wouldn't have thought that in a million years. Like, the last part. Like, yeah, he does have a lilting, effeminate Southern accent, but I don't know. What discredits him is the crazy shit coming out of his mouth, not the way he sounds. Anyway, I just thought that description was kind of ridiculous. And if anything, that's this Hollywood guy using his own preconceptions about like, or like what Southern accents signify to him. Anyway, yeah, so that part's pretty sad. I mean, it's this guy, he's just like, hey, do y'all need some prayer today? And he's just like asking strangers, and he's got this little like poster board that says like, it has a picture of him like when he was it sounds so weird to say when he was trans, and then a picture of him now, and it's basically like, look how miserable I was trying to force myself to be a woman, and look at me now with like the power of God. And like it's that almost like typical thing of like the born again Christian who's just, they're forcing themselves to sound a little too like, to sound so happy, but you just can like, I don't know. I get the sense that like their sort of like desperation and despair is still like right there under the surface, and they're just like trying so hard to like pretend it's not there or something.
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's just like looking for a place to fit in.
Yeah.
Like if you feel outcast and maybe if you grew up in like a home that, church or something was a big part of your life and you really want to be a part of that. So you like mold yourself to be part of the group because you don't want to be outcasted. People don't want to be outcasted usually. Unless it's me. I mind it so much. But,
I think there's a lot of reasons people turn to, just for like an umbrella term, like evangelical Christianity is like, like typical things are like, trying to beat like alcoholism and drug addiction, just generally feeling shitty in life and looking for some like cure all. But for whatever this guy's reason was, I don't know. He's just he's a believer in conversion therapy, that you can, as they say, pray the gay away. And I don't know, that guy in the movie, like, as one of the reviews says, another review says, it does feel sort of like it doesn't fit in with the rest of the movie in a way, and I kind of agree with that.
Oh, see, I think the reason they had that guy in the movie is because they're following all the, like... I thought it was fine, because the way I took it is they're following all the people who started the Exodus thing in, like, in the 70s. And he's, like, the new... he started this big movement called... Sunshine March? What was it called?
Freedom March.
Freedom March.
That was his. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's his. So he's like starting.
He's the like modern day version.
The new breed of Exodus. He's like the founder of basically Exodus 2.0 because his movement's getting really big, and I think it's more just to highlight that there's still people who are actively trying to I don't know. I guess make conversion therapy work.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good point.
That this isn't dead. That even though the XX gays of Exodus had came out and against it for the large part, except for whoever Pac was married to, the woman Pac, who I can't remember her first name. She's still like in the Christian circuit.
Oh, the quote unquote ex lesbian who was married to the ex gay guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rebecca, maybe? Rebecca Pac? I feel like it's Rebecca, but I'm probably wrong.
I actually don't know. I wrote down some stuff, but it's a little disjointed, and I didn't write anybody's names down. I think I literally wrote like main
Chubby
lesbian
guy.
Number 1, and like
guy teaching his handsome boyfriend how to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there was like some awkwardness to it though, because watching these people, I don't think they're monsters. I think what they've done is bad, but I also think they just got trapped into like this like system where I think it's real easy to get like into parts of life where you think you're doing good, but you're actually doing harm and not to realize it. And
if
the fact that they did realize is pretty impressive to me in a weird way, if that makes any sense. But
if they weren't being so apologetic about it, I might still be kind of pissed at them. But they all seem genuinely like it's a daily thing for them to like struggle with like knowing what they've done.
I'm sure they're more pissed at themselves than you could ever be pissed at them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I wrote down something that basically the same idea. Yeah, it's like I felt like I don't really have contempt for these people as individuals, but like as the little wider like social phenomenon, and maybe some of this like the cynical leaders of like these mega churches, like the Jerry Falwells and stuff, I have zero sympathy for, because I think they know exactly what they're doing. And
oh yeah, I think so too. Like even the Well, the one woman who I think that she was like real instrumental in getting Prop 8 passed in California.
Right.
And that's also what made her like leave. She was talking about when she was giving all the like speeches and talks for Exodus about how she would just go to slippery slope arguments to like just reach in and find things that people really fear, because that's what these people like feed on. It's like, look, if we let gay people get married, who's next? Pedophiles? Yada yada.
That guy, Polk, whatever, call him the PR man for the operation. It shows him on the Jerry Springer show arguing with a Catholic. I believe he was a Catholic priest, just based on his outfit. And the Catholic priest was basically saying you can't change people's sexuality. There's actually nothing wrong with being gay. God made gay people, etc. And he like fires back like, so you think pedophiles can't change? And then Jerry Springer's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, almost like, proud is such like not the right word, but I can't think of a better word. Proud of Jerry Springer for like stepping in and like telling that guy, you know, not to compare homosexuality to pedophilia. And the guy was kind of like, oh, I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying it's an example of a behavior that, you know, blah, blah, blah. Obviously he is trying to put that general thought into people's minds. But, there was a part too when, God damn the names. We'll just call him the guy who, the modern day conversion therapy guy, the formerly trans guy. There's a part where it shows him talking to his group, and he's like blaming the culture, and he literally for people being gay and trans, and he cites like Will and Grace as like when he did that, I was just like, oh, just like my stomach turned. I was like that's, I don't know, just. And this was like in 2020 or 2021 even. Like this is recent footage. This wasn't like a guy 20 years ago, you know, like still blaming things like Will and Grace, you know, for people being gay. It made him seem so pathetic in a way that I could even really be mad. I was just
I got the sense that he said he was going to high school in the early 2000s, so I assume he's about the same age as me, because I graduated in 2002. I feel like Will and Grace was a big inspiration to some people then. It was one of the first like shows with like an openly gay character, right?
Yeah, but he, I mean, I guess, okay, if his point is that the show, but he's saying like the show, like he's putting the cause in the wrong place, like a mainstream sitcom having gay characters and not condemning them. That's a reflection of like a changing culture, not the other way around, you know? And yeah. That's all I'm getting at is like, and that should be obvious to any person with an adult brain, but so many people still want to like blame the media and the culture for the existence of gay people. Like it just seemed like such a wildly outdated argument, even for people of that ilk, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they never really say what, like, his conversion to Christianity story never really, like, was never really in the movie. Like, the others were, like, now I'm annoyed that I'm forgetting names. Like, the woman... The woman, Julia, maybe Rebecca.
Let's see. There's the younger blonde
she's
woman.
The middle-aged one that
the middle-aged one who worked for Exodus. Ended up like moving to Washington and some other stuff. Like she kind of like lived through the AIDS crisis and had like 17 of her friends die, and like she grew up in this like crazy Christian home, from what I understood, and like she's watching all these people die around her, and I think, not that it excuses it, but I could see try to make sense of it and be like, oh God is punishing us. Maybe I need to like
find church or something. Like,
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I guess I don't remember what she said about her childhood, but I do remember that the part that you're describing now, and she actually made the point of, she said she came to the church late in life, like she was like 27.
okay, I might be conflating her past also with the younger girls.
So like her testimony and stuff, and like what she would say on TV is like, I lived as a practicing lesbian for like 7 years or whatever it was. So like throughout her 20s, she was like, it didn't give me the impression she was like struggling with her sexuality. She was just like living like a normal person. I mean,
yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is I can see why people turn to this stuff to like try to make sense of the world. I just don't think it's a good way to make sense of the world.
Right. I get that. And that is what she's implying about saying she watched so many of her gay male friends die from HIV. And but yeah, we should emphasize all these people are now like repentant and think that conversion therapy is very harmful and so on. I think there's something to this this kind of critical review. Actually, they're both critical reviews. I found two reviews. One is just like, and they're coming from total like polar opposite ends of their perspective on the movie. Like, one is written in like on a Christian website called the Gospel Coalition, which I described already. The authors like claims to be successfully converted, and but not even really converted. He describes himself as like a guy who has gay desires but forces himself to be celibate and read the Bible a lot. And so he doesn't really say he made himself straight. I mean, he doesn't say that, but he's very much in favor of these kind of therapies and shit. And so obviously he hated this documentary. The title of the review is Netflix's Pray Away Seethes with Contempt for Christianity. And what's funny is this other review in Paste magazine basically says that it doesn't like seethe with enough hatred towards Christianity, that it's not critical of the Christian doctrine that's like that undergirds all of this stuff, which I kind of agree with. Like, more in retrospect, I do. While I was watching it, I was more just kind of thinking about the lives of these people and just how kind of sad the whole situation is. But I think the documentary could have done more to like get these people's like reasoning for like why. I mean, I guess maybe the documentary just assumes that people who are going to watch it already kind of know where these beliefs come from, more or less.
Yeah.
But I also kind of took this person's point to heart as well, which is basically they never really talk about like the profit driving part of the evangelical Christianity, but at the same time,
one thing I wanted to bring up about this that I noticed, especially with all the founders of Exodus, as far as I can tell, they didn't really have jobs outside of Exodus. They all had really fucking nice houses in California. And I'm like, how much money did you make? You have that blood on your hands, but it seems like you did really well for yourself. Which they don't talk about their careers. So maybe they had completely different careers, and I'm just being like presumptuous here. But
well, yeah, I guess I don't really. I mean,
the thought like ran through my head occasionally when they're showing them in their house. Like, Jesus, can't imagine.
I mean, I do know that this Exodus thing is like became like a worldwide phenomenon, that we're on like 5 continents, and
they were all boomers, and we all know boomers made a ton of money just existing.
I mean, I think they were getting funded by like a lot of
the mega church people.
Yeah, outside groups that also fund like conservative politics and things like that. I probably should have looked into that a little bit more, but I'm almost positive that's the case.
Well, they definitely were for the Prop 8 stuff.
Yeah.
during that.
Yeah. Also, I mean, to kind of just throw in again how this stuff hasn't. It feels like almost like why are we even talking about this subject? Like, isn't all this shit dead? And that's kind of the reason I even wanted to do the episode. Is it's not like this is. It's a less visible problem than it maybe once was, but like there are still tons of, and they tend to be religious groups now only. In the past, there were sort of secular groups that talked about conversion therapy, and that was all like really outmoded psychiatry and stuff. But now that's basically all in the past for the most part. But this stuff still exists in some forms or another, which, you know, the movie does show with this particular guy's new foundation, whatever it was, Freedom March.
Yeah, that's why I thought they were showing the guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's only banned in 26 states. I mean, it's actually banned in less states than that, because there's like 4 where it's partially banned or something.
Yeah, I think it's like 23
of,
or 24 or something like
half
that.
of America still allows conversion therapy, and plenty of countries too. I mean, I know it's like outlawed in Germany, some other places. Germany, bastion country there. They seem all right most of the time, from what little I know. I actually don't know a lot about Germany other than I'm like, they seem all right.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, just yeah. I mean, like our very recently now but very recently ex vice president was directly involved in this kind of stuff. You know, Mike Pence was unsurprisingly. I mean, you just kind of look at that guy and you're like,
well, I understand he was also afraid to be in a room alone with women.
Oh yeah, that's like a policy. You know, my father does this. I don't know if he still does, but he did that same thing back in the day in his capacity as a preacher. And it was, I remember him, like, even he or my mom explaining it to me, like, or it was something like he would never have a closed door meeting with just a woman in his office, because the possibility of someone like, making like, false allegations or whatever. But which is, I think that's basically,
man had made an allegation against him.
Well, see, that's the thing, is there's just the assumption that, yeah, I don't know. It's weird though to now just think that my dad and Mike Pence had the same.
Did your dad
policy.
And Mike not learn anything from the Catholic Church? All you have to do is deny the allegations for years and years and years and ruin lives. You usually get away with it, because who are they going to believe? The alligator or the alligator?
The alligator?
The alligator? Or or the good upstanding preacher man?
I just had like a Far Side comic like image in my mind of an alligator with wearing a suit sitting in a chair in an office. Anyway, but maybe just you talking about Germany just reminded me that we could talk a little bit about the roots of gay conversion therapy. This comes from history.com. In 1899, a German psychiatrist electrified the audience at a conference on hypnosis with a bold claim: he had turned a gay man straight. All it took was 45 hypnosis sessions and a few trips to a brothel, Albert von Schreck-Notzing bragged. Through hypnosis, he claimed he had manipulated the man's sexual impulses, diverting them from his interest in men to a lasting desire for women. He didn't know it, but he just kicked off a phenomenon that would later be known as conversion therapy. And it goes on to talk about like lots of different, even more fucked up forms of conversion therapy than just pure hypnosis. There were like basically like kind of like I guess you could say like Pavlovian or like just behavior modification therapies tried, where they would like, you know, so there was like ECT, like electroconvulsive therapy, like on people's brains.
I've tried to do like Pavlovian therapy to myself before.
Which, how so?
I don't know, like punishing myself for breaking a diet, you know, rewarding myself for doing things correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like stabbing a fork into your leg every time you do something wrong. Like, what do you mean, punish yourself?
Like going on an extremely long run. I don't know.
Okay.
Just thinking to myself. I also kind of think of my classrooms as little Pavlovian experiments. That's what classroom points and punishments are for. Anywho, I lost the train there.
Well, I was just going to continue describing this grotesque shit that people had done, even into the 20th century.
Testicle transplantation experiments.
Yeah, some physician or something thought that male homosexuality was rooted in the testes, and actually did transplants, and found out the hard way that testicular transplants are kind of impossible, or at least they were at the time, because like the glands don't like take.
Oh shit!
So it just was like you just like made a person infertile, basically.
It's horrible. I don't know why this made me think of it, but a couple of years ago, I haven't seen any news about it recently, but a couple of years ago, I was following communities of people on the internet who were getting high by shocking themselves. Basically, they would figure out the best places to send current into their head. So they'd like shave their head and use like little like shock suction cups and like shock different parts of their brains to activate like the areas that make you hallucinate or make you all speedy. And I got so tempted to try it, but I never never went out and bought the stuff I needed. Like I had the battery, but I needed to get some of those like little suction things to put on my head.
Jesus Christ.
And then I was like, but I kept reading about it. There's sometimes people would accidentally like hit the wrong spot and like go blind or like completely change their personality for like 30 minutes. I was like, maybe this isn't a high I should chase. What if I like it too much? I'm just walking around with a backpack full of batteries and wires attached to my head, some buttons occasionally. Oh, I gotta hit this center right now.
Well, there was that kind of famous God helmet that some neuroscientists or whatever developed that. It had like electrocurrents that stimulated parts of your brain, and it would basically give people the same kind of feeling that, like, say, I don't know, monks or whatever, people who meditate a lot, the kind of transcendent feeling, but like just through like stimulating the brain. Anyway, it just reminded me of that. But yeah, they were trying to do this like. It was like fucking Clockwork Orange, like therapy, like, but even worse somehow. It's like they would try to make people feel sick, but they would like just like shock their genitals and stuff while they're looking at pictures of like their gay lovers, or like, and they would force them to look at straight pornography while they're like shocking them. Yeah, they're just torturing these people, and the sad. I mean one of the many sad things about it is these people were consenting to this because they desperately wanted to change their sexuality. I mean, it's pretty miserable.
That is miserable. It's awful that we do this to people.
I mean, luckily those therapies are basically gone, although they probably exist in some weird pockets of the world still. Anyway, so like another reason I wanted to even talk about this documentary at all is that I feel like sometimes people say like left on the political spectrum, from like liberals to I don't know, all the way to just staunch communists. We tend to think that like the sort of battle for gay rights is over. It's been won. Like, it's won the culture war. And it does, I mean, it's made huge progress, of course. I was trying to get some statistics on that. And one like Washington Post article just explained that like the attitudes on gay marriage, like within, I think from like 2004, 60 people opposed it. 60% of people opposed it. And then it completely flipped by like a decade later to like 60% of people being in favor of gay marriage. And that was just, so, I mean, that data is probably even outdated by 2021 standards now. But I think it's still important to, as much as I think it's valuable that people, I guess like socialists have been pointing out how class-based analysis is important, and maybe the most fundamental thing to focus on in terms of social change. I think it's possible for people to swing too far that way and completely sort of disregard the identity politics layer to all of it, by which I mean, like, you know, racial equality, like, you know, acceptance of various forms of sexuality and so on. So I don't know. I just think it's good to sort of remind ourselves sometimes that like all of this stuff hasn't been settled. and I don't think a lot of people, I think if you ask people like, is there more progress to be made in this area of like gay rights? I'm sure like most people would say, yeah, but like I think sometimes people don't really act like it. Is what I'm saying making any sense?
Yeah, no, I think it does make sense. I think there's obviously been some progress made. I just think it's slow. But public opinion's changing, but also I think the past like few years there's been kind of a backlash to it, as like there's been more of a rise of like right wing stuff.
Yeah, that's true, but I at least I don't really tend to see that side of the right wing, like they're not out with signs that are like marriage is between a man and a woman. It seems kind of like people have largely given up on that topic. Like they might sort of like hold privately like very ugly, bigoted views about gay people and trans people.
I'm sure it's still like I'm sure it's still talked about at churches and stuff, but now I think it's all about owning the libs, right?
Yeah, it's like about owning the libs and like being against, you know, cancel culture and what, you know, like, I don't know. Being against things, like being against socialism and out of control government spending and whatever. I just think I think on the more like surface visible level, it sometimes appears as if like this culture war, like this aspect of the culture war, is like all basically been won.
Yeah, I think to some degree, but like, I don't know. I still think there's problems, and I think it's like not completely won. Like people are still like discriminated against for being gay. I have gay friends who have talked about it, and like things are still not perfect in any way, especially globally. But I think things have gotten better, though. I think it's always like, even like with people creating things like the Freedom March, or just like, I think it's real easy for like views to shift quickly and in bad ways, especially when you get like, say, incredibly famous artists who are against like trans people, such as like J.K. Rowling, artist, author, whatever. I think that type of stuff can be a problem. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing the base.
No, I agree. I'm just I'm saying more about how things tend to appear versus reality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I'm actually I'm saying the opposite of like, okay, it's all over. We can like,
Pack our bags.
dust off our hands and go home. Like,
we got rid of Orange Man. Everything's fixed now.
yeah. But even before that, I felt like because it was like, okay, Obama legalized gay marriage. I mean, he didn't, but whatever. That was like that seemed to be the moment where everyone's just kind of like, yeah, we won, it's over. Like, and like generally the culture, like, even conservatives, generally speaking, like find, like the Westboro Baptist style, like anti-gay hatred, like disgusting, or it doesn't keep in line with their principles. At least they'll never publicly like, side with it. But I don't even know if those guys are still around, to be honest. That's how much I feel like the cultural conversation has shifted. Is like, I don't even know if those guys are around. They probably
I'm
are.
Sure they still are to some extent. They're just not doing anything to be on the media as much as they were.
I think the media is ignoring them, though. That's what my feeling is more, is like, because it's like, okay, well, we already know like everybody hates these guys. So like, we don't really need to like do like an expose on them or whatever. And also maybe, the idea we shouldn't platform these people type of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I was just going to say something about like some of this like discrimination. Is that the word I'm looking for? It might be the word I'm looking for. It's one of the words I'm looking for. Hate, discrimination, just like this way of like trying to force people into cultural norms that shouldn't be cultural norms and people aren't built for. It's also profit driven, right? Charging for these like camps and retreats, etc., etc.
They're definitely not free. And so like, I guess my assessment would be that like a lot of this kind of bigotry is just sort of like a scurried away and like gone further underground,
under the surface.
But it's still there. And that's part of the reason why conservatives always like whine about feeling like, I can't even express my views anymore. And it's like, well, you can. You're just going to face a lot of criticism because more people find your views repugnant than before.
Conservatives would just fucking love South Korea. Like, I don't have cable, but Yane has cable, and I'm flipping through Yane's like cable the other day. There's like 20 different Christian networks. There's so many damn Christian networks in Korea. Nuts to me.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to make another episode if we got. I mean, I think just focusing on American culture is.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I was just thinking about it.
Well, I mean, the thing was, before we got on here, I was reading a little bit about like just sort of like historical attitudes like around the world towards gay people, and I think it would be very fair to say Korea is pretty regressive compared to
most places. Actually,
a lot of countries at the moment.
Korea doesn't do very well with.
There's quite literally stuff. Like there's like 2 gay celebrities and they still get like trash thrown on them and stuff. Openly gay, I should say. But yeah.
That's a whole nother topic though, that I'm not sure if I'm 100% up to talking about right now. But
no, me either.
Know quite a bit about it.
I was also going to say that, I sometimes think that they're, from the liberal side of things, I see people sort of like get into like a theological, like philosophical, like bind, because they want to be like utterly like tolerant of all religions, but at the same time condemn, like viciously condemn things like homophobia and misogyny. And the more I thought about this, it reminded me of what I believe was a very famous sort of viral clip from The West Wing where, actually I have it. I'm just going to play it. So like the idea is like when people try to use the Bible to like fight against Bible thumping homophobes, sometimes like some people really think it's clever, and I don't know. I see it as a problem. Okay. So I remember, like, I never watched The West Wing, but I remember even this clip, like, going all around the internet.
I don't think I've ever seen an episode of The West Wing. That's not completely true. I definitely did when I was a kid. I don't know anything about The West Wing, but...
Well, it's Aaron Sorkin, and
I also don't think I've seen this clip. So
this video is entitled "President Bartlett Kicks the Bible Thumpers Butt!" exclamation point. And then, yeah, just even looking at the comments, I never get tired of this speech. Okay, I'll just play it first. Here we go, Mr. Bartlett.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I wish I could spend more than a few minutes with you, but the polls don't close in the East for another hour, and there are plenty of election results still left to falsify. You know, with so many people participating in the political and social debate through call-in shows, it's a good idea to be reminded every once in a while. It's a good idea to be reminded of the awesome impact. I'm sorry. You're Dr. Jenna Jacobs, right?
Yes, sir.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
The awesome impact of the airwaves and how that translates into the furthering of our national discussions, but obviously also how it can Forgive me, Dr. Jacobs. Are you an MD?
A PhD.
A PhD?
Yes, sir.
In psychology?
No, sir.
Theology?
No.
Social work?
I have a PhD in English literature.
I'm asking because on your show, people call in for advice, and you go by the name Dr. Jacobs on your show, and I didn't know if maybe your listeners were confused by that and assumed you had advanced training in psychology, theology, or healthcare.
I don't believe they are confused, no, sir.
Good. I like your show. I like how you call homosexuality an abomination.
I don't say homosexuality is an abomination, Mr. President. The Bible does.
Yes, it does. Leviticus
18:22.
Chapter and verse. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions while I had you here. I'm interested in selling my youngest daughter into slavery as sanctioned in Exodus 21:7. She's a Georgetown sophomore, speaks fluent Italian, always cleared the table when it was her turn. What would a good price for her be? While thinking about that, can I ask another way?
lame.
My chief of staff, Leo McGarry, insists on working on the Sabbath. Exodus 35:2 clearly says he should be put to death. Am I morally obligated to kill him myself, or is it okay to call the police? Here's one that's really important, because we've got a lot of sports fans in this town. Touching the skin of a dead pig makes one unclean, Leviticus 11:7. If they promise to wear gloves, can the Washington Redskins still play football? Can Notre Dame? Can West Point? Does the whole town really have to be together to stone my brother John for planting different crops side by side? Can I burn my mother in a small family gathering for wearing garments made from two different threads? Think about those questions, would you? One last thing. While you may be mistaking this for your monthly meeting of the ignorant tight-ass club, in this building when the president stands, nobody sits.
God, I hate Aaron Sorkin.
Toby.
Yes, Mr. President.
That's how I beat him.
Sappy music. Okay, Jesus Christ.
You know, this never works. I've argued like this with people before too, back when I was more passionate about expressing my views on religion, which I've actually let die mostly. People are just so fucking selective. It doesn't matter what their book says. It doesn't say. They're just going to get out of it what they want to get out of it and what the rest of their group thinks it is.
And this is the liberal fantasy, though, of like the educated.
Yeah, I know. People aren't swayed by logic. I mean, look, people aren't getting the vaccine.
But I'm saying that President Bartlett is a fucking idiot too, because he's a Christian on the show. That's the thing, is he's not coming at it like an atheist. He went to like divinity school and shit. He's like a big believer. So what is his point? What is he trying to? I mean, I get what he thinks he's doing, but he's basically just saying all of the Bible's a bunch of horse shit. Like, I don't know. I hate that argument, and I hate how much people love this, and people use the same argument all the time. They're like, oh, well, you shouldn't be eating shrimp either, you know? And while it's true, like, you'd be better off just saying, I don't know. I mean, like you, I'm also far less interested in like trying to talk people out of their religious beliefs than I might once have been. But it still just irks me on like, I don't know, on some level. Just the smugness of that clip is just almost like funny to me. But yeah, like you look in the comments and people just love it. They fucking love this shit.
You think more people would have gotten vaccinated had we not been so smug about it?
About vaccinations? What if President Bartlett just gave us all a good theological lecturing to? Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just, like you said, like some people they're not gonna be swayed either way. And what are we supposed to think this woman did? She's presumably a very successful radio talk show host. Do you think she's going to go on her show the next day and be like, I was so wrong. President Bartlett showed me all the contradictory passages in the Bible.
She'll go stew about it and come up with a response about how all of it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's what people do. I don't know. I mean, changing culture is super hard. I actually think that in some ways culture everywhere is getting better, even though I don't always believe that. The people in charge aren't better. But young people, I think, are getting better. I think views are changing slowly. Maybe if the Earth survives climate disaster, we might live in a much better place in 100 years or so.
I mean, on this subject, on sort of general sort of acceptance of gay people, it had like the article I found that had those statistics in it. It has like I don't know, like social scientists basically saying that it's like one of the fastest like cultural shifts like ever. Because yeah, I mean, like within like a 15-year period or something, even maybe less than that, the numbers literally flipped from like disapproval to approval. But yeah, so this documentary, I'd say if you've really got nothing better to do, check it out.
It's interesting. It's not like the best documentary I've ever seen, but it's an interesting topic. I didn't know much about Exodus. I'd heard about groups like this. We had both brought up in our like chat together that we'd seen Jesus Camp when we were like, I think I was like 18 when that movie came out or something. But
yeah,
I feel like I was. Don't remember much about it, but it's what this made me think of. But like following real people who had experienced it.
Jesus Camp put me in way more of a fucked up headspace, but also that I watched it when I was also like 18 or 19, and just I don't know, watching like the brainwashing of children. I mean, probably the most famous scene, at least in my mind, from that documentary is when they have a 2D cardboard cutout of George W. Bush and all the kids are flocking to it like it's like divine. It's fucking, and like these kids are like crying, but they're like crying because like they want to be saved so bad, and I don't know. Anyway, this was kind of a weird stray from our usual topics episode, I guess, which I think we need to do every now and then. But I don't know. I don't know if I have that much more to say about this subject, other than like, you know, I could give like, you know, some atheistic talking points about why this religious indoctrination is really kind of one of the root causes of this behavior, but I'm gonna avoid that.
Yeah, I don't really have solutions for this other than I think actually things are getting better. I hope they continue, maybe, but there's still a lot of problems. And
yeah, I mean, I guess what I've sort of had to come to accept in a way is that, you know, because there are Christian groups and other sort of religious groups that are they don't just accept gay people as in like, oh, you can come to our church, but we still think you're a sinner. But they literally, you know, you are on equal footing with the rest of us. Pro gay religions, basically, is what I'm saying. And as much as I think that they can't square the Bible with modern beliefs about acceptance, etc., I just, if it is getting results, positive results, like in a decade, like flipping the attitude of the country to be more accepting and whatnot, then okay, go be a Unitarian or whatever, if that's what it takes, you know. But there definitely was a time in my life where I would have gotten just kind of like shaking my fist and like, these things are incompatible. But anyway, I guess that's my final thought.
I have nothing else to say.
Okay. How about something to recommend? I actually don't have anything. I should have thought about it. I've been watching a lot of movies. Let me think for a second.
I'll recommend the video game. So my recommendation this week is Slay the Spire, which is actually a pretty old video game. It's not. It came out in 2019. It's a roguelike, which means that every time you play it, it's different and it's kind of difficult. But it's a roguelike card game where you have to construct interesting patterns with cards over and over again. And I like it a lot. It's a great way to zone out or even meditate, and occasionally it makes you feel like you have a big brain. And if you're dumb like me, it's real nice to feel like you have a big brain occasionally. So Slay the Spire, that's my recommendation, because I spent a lot of this week wasting time on Slay the Spire.
Sounds good. Big brain game.
It's got that just one more time feel to it. It's real good at being like, yeah, let's just play one more round. One more try.
Oh, I know what I'm going to recommend. I got it. I watched this yesterday, actually. I'm going to recommend a movie called Clifford. It's from 1994. It was a like spectacular failure in the box office failure. Starring Martin Short, Charles Grodin, and Mary Steenburgen. Is that how you say her name?
Probably.
Yeah. Have you seen Clifford?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's kind of like, it's got like I would say like a sort of weird cult status now. But I always liked it, even as a kid in 1994.
It's based on the giant red dog?
No. But like some people kind of like violently hate the movie. It's basically about like so Martin Short plays like a 10-year-old boy, which itself is kind of unnerving. but he's this like, he's basically like a sociopath who just sort of gradually ruins Charles Grodin's life. It's one of those kind of like, guy goes crazy because someone's making him crazy, but nobody believes him type of scenarios. But it's just bizarre. There's like just really weird acting choices in it. Martin Short's hilarious. I was like belly laughing. I just like laughed so hard a few times watching it yesterday. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if anyone could possibly like it as an adult seeing it for the first time. So maybe that's why I'm recommending it as an experiment. But I remember watching it as a kid and thinking it was so strange and funny, and I still think it is. The reason I was inspired to watch it again is because I heard Tom Sharpling, who apparently is like a big Clifford proponent. He went on the Blank Check podcast to talk about Clifford, and it was an entertaining conversation, and I was like, gotta rewatch that Clifford now. But yeah, it's more of an invitation to rewatch Clifford, probably. Moving on.
Definitely never saw this movie. At a Catholic school in 2050. Maybe I'll watch it for your experiment.
There's a weird opening that takes place in the future. It's like it kind of bookends the movie. But anyway, yeah, it's just it's a good one.
Okay.
Okay.
I should jump off here. I gotta do some stuff. Shower and other stuff. But I'll come over to your house tomorrow around 3.
Okay.
I think.
Check us out at heatdeathpod.
Oh, right. I forgot that. Shit. I'm sorry,
Twitter
man.
at heatdeathpod. Also, we got a couple of
mails.
Yeah, responses to our plea for listener mail. And we'll probably read those on the next episode. But yeah, feel free to send in more. For example, have you ever worked for a gay conversion therapy outfit? No, I'm assuming you haven't.
If
anyway.
you have, I'm interested to hear your story.
I mean, I guess, yeah, that would be crazy. What do you think? What do you think about stuff and things? Do you like stuff? To quote Ralph Wiggum. Okay. Time to go. Till next time.
Adios.
Bye.
Good because we've made
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?